Welcome to our October meetup. It's almost 7 o'clock. Today we have a very cool program. We have a special guest all the way from South Africa. Bam! We have PandaSt0rm, and he's going
Hello.
to talk to us about game hacking and show us some cool things. So, PandaSt0rm, would you introduce yourself?
I'm from South Africa. There's probably quite a few South Africans in chat living in the Netherlands.
At least
Um,
one that we know of. Yeah,
I know of two. I know one you don't know.
there you go.
I started my InfoSec journey basically when I was two. My
Two.
father got me into computers when I was really young. That started with gaming. And I hated dying in games. So I found a way around that. And that very
Got what?
quickly led me into hacking the games I was playing.
Nice. And in the process of getting to know you, I've learned that power in South Africa is not a commodity. In fact, just before the meetup started, your power went off again. Luckily, we are prepared for this. And you might wonder, how is he online when the power is off? Maybe you could explain to us first world problem people what it's like to have the blackouts.
So it's a very South African problem. Wide range of governance issues have led to a breakdown of infrastructure on scale. And frankly, they just can't keep the power plants online. They bring one up, another one trips.
Yeah, you sent an article that 3 power generators turned off recently, and then it caused another blackout. So in your home, you're now running on a generator, and you're powering your basic necessities.
Well, I mean, with the cost of fuel, we're not even using a generator anymore. I've got a battery backup for the network, and for light, I have a little light.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, and so you might wonder, how do we do this now? Well, we were prepared for this thing because it was very sure to happen. So we actually did some recordings of all of the steps. So we'll use those. So if at any point you see some weird moving of play cursors and stuff like that, that's due to that. It's something that we cannot imagine.
Well, you might very soon, from what I hear.
No, I hope not. And also, I'll go for a battery pack. That would be a very good thing. So yeah, quite interesting. So we know a lot of things of the world just by looking at this beautiful hacking stream. So yeah, you're into game hacking. You are, I used to play games, and I would use my skill set to retrieve the actual codes for the levels, and to continue on to levels when we still had games that used those passwords to say, hey, I want to go to a level or not.
What was interesting is, I don't know if what was that game? It was late 90s. It was a strategy game. It wasn't Warcraft. It was one of the others. It's been a while.
I think it was in time of Day of the Tentacle, which is like the early 90s, I guess. But yeah, that doesn't really matter. That's how far I got with game hacking. And on our Discord, we had a big discussion about game hacking, as it is a category on Hack the Box now, and you've made quite a lot of the content as well.
Yeah, I've done a couple blog posts one to come out at some point. Bunch of challengers are now working on a related project that's on a pretty large scale. So yeah, there's a lot more game hacking content coming out on Hack the Box in the near
Nice.
future.
Nice. And what is your favorite thing that you've made so far that we could actually enjoy?
There
'Cause-
is a mobile game challenge that will be coming out at some point in the coming weeks.
Nice.
It's a really fun game to just play, but it's also interesting for packing mobile games.
Nice. Yeah, then you get that people are actually going to make um, uh, the high scores also a thing to do with the game, maybe.
Well, this one does have high schools.
Yeah. Well, if you remember, we had this machine called Swag Store, and that actually led to Hack the Box getting a Swag Store, which was quite funny. Maybe we'll have an official Hack the Box game. Who knows?
I did say large project. That's all I'll say
Yeah.
on it.
Oh,
But
oh,
yeah, so we started adding the game hacking content because it's actually a pretty big gateway into InfoSec at large. I came up through the Wares scene, and the majority of hackers and reversers that I met all started hacking games.
yeah. Doing the thing that you like and
Yeah,
making it
exactly. It's
so that you
super
don't have to spend a
accessible
lot.
and understandable.
Yeah. Yeah, the funny thing is, I've told this story at a previous meetup, I think. But my son, he went to elementary school up to this year, and they had this game called Cookie Clicker, where it's a horrible game. It's in a browser, and they would get time on a computer, and they would then spend it playing Cookie Clicker, which is basically putting your mouse cursor on a cookie and clicking, and you get points. And he got so tired of it, but it was very hip to do it in his class. So one point he came home and he said, "Yeah." And so I pressed F12. Then I went through the tabs and I found the code that actually does the high score thingy. And I just gave myself a really high score. And then I showed it to everybody. And then they stopped playing. So that was very good.
I wonder what it is about tapping, because when I was at high school, like smartphones were like just becoming a thing, and we had this mobile app where Doodle Jump, I think it was called.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was what we were all playing.
Yeah, yeah, it's just you don't have to think and you just do it.
Yeah.
And then if there's a competitive thing in it, you want to be better or have more, and then you can be smart and hack your way into it, which is quite nice.
Exactly.
Let's see, in the chat we have some suggestions as to what game you might be mentioning earlier at the late 90s. RuneScape, Age of Empires, Red Alert, Half-Life Doom, Yuri's Revenge by Yuri, solar panels somewhere else. All right. Yeah, so maybe no, it was not RuneScape. I will remember. I think it was one of those games there where you progress through levels and you have to remember the code to go to that level. What's quite interesting. As soon as we shut down everything, I will remember. And then,
We don't have a demo curse because everything's recorded, but we have a name curse.
yeah, yeah. Phelan has a very interesting question at the moment. Is hacking mobile games much more different than hacking PC games?
So that's a pretty good segue into what I was then going to start talking about, is game hacking at a very core concept. So is it very different? The tools you use, yes. The techniques you use, no. It's basically the same. So majority of game hacking revolves around memory manipulation. I don't know if anyone's ever used programs like Cheat Engine, or if you're going way back, T-Search and Cheatomatic and things like that. It's all about finding gain values in memory and modifying them. And if you're on a PC or a mobile device, memory functions the same.
Yeah.
You're still looking for those addresses to modify them. It's just the tooling that you'll use varies slightly. And obviously now there's also a lot more newer techniques such as code injections and entire modding frameworks. I'll get into those as well. But the same exists for Android as well, where you now have these libraries that can inject Dalvik into a running game, and you can get an in-game UI that you can now click a button and spawn a unit.
Nice. Yeah, that's quite interesting. As we progress to a more mobile-centric world, I guess. If you look at the new iPads that came out that are now as powerful as a laptop, at one point these things that we have now will become like ancient devices, which will be
Yeah.
quite interesting. Ida mentions Pwn Adventure, which you probably also know as is in your area. That's Pyro Game Guardian for Android.
Yep, that's basically a cheat engine for Android.
Yeah.
It's a memory searching software. It's one of three,
Yeah.
basically.
That's why I don't even attempt to play games with Pyro. You know, MR says, remember using cheat engine on RuneScape and thinking I had hacked it. Beautiful. Well, in the sense you did, right? It's the first steps. Right?
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, with RuneScape, everything was server-sided, so you were just changing display values, and then as soon as it updated on the server, it would then reflect on. But you
Nice.
could with some packet editing,
Nice. Yeah.
which we also get into.
Nice. Well, yeah. So as I said, we have I think four challenges that we'll discuss. They go from from starter to more elaborate things that we need to do.
Yeah. So the challenges were built around a literal evolution on difficulty and skill. So each challenge builds on techniques that were basically learned in the previous one. Because learning game hacking is actually really linear. You start with memory searching, you know your values, then suddenly you no longer know the values you're looking for. Then you're now looking for obfuscated values. Now suddenly nothing's on the client anymore. It's now all server side. So now you have to start editing packets. And there's this natural path of evolution that I tried to capture with how the challenges progressed.
Nice.
Why I've picked out 4 of the starter ones that kind of encapsulate most of that progression.
Nice. Yeah, and the format that we'll be following is that the first one we'll give everybody for free. We'll show it. We'll talk through it. The second one, when we transition into that, we'll take a break. So 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes worth of break. So that people can actually attempt it themselves based on the skills that they already learned. And that way we'll progress through the various games until the last one. I don't know if the last one would even be feasible in a 15 minutes.
It's one of those things where if you know, you know. If you don't, you're totally lost.
Yeah, so then 15 minutes would be just good play. Good break. Yeah, indeed. So yeah, let's
note something though, because on Discord you said you didn't need the VPN. There is one challenge that will require you to spin up a Docker, which is the lightning fast challenge.
Nice. And can they do it remote? They do the spinning up on the Hackbox, and then, but they don't need the VPN then, right? Or is it in the VPN?
Oh, I don't know.
The Dockers, I believe, you can just connect through the normal internet.
Can you? I'm not sure. It's been a while.
Well, we'll ask Barbara to figure that out.
So yeah, so jumping into the first one. So Cube Madness was the start of the journey, and you have a vertigo warning as I share my screen.
Yeah, there we go. Whoop.
There we go.
There we go. Inception.
Yep. So there was an interesting shift in the gaming industry 5 years ago, give or take, where before 2015, every major company essentially invested in building their own game engine. EA had Frostbite, Blizzard had Novatech, I think it was called. Epic Games was Unreal Engine with Fortnite, and Ubisoft was the can't remember the name of it, but they also had their own gaming engine. And what happened with Epic Games and the Fortnite success was suddenly they were able to offer this really advanced game engine for free. Prior to Unreal Engine 4, Unreal Engine 3 was pretty expensive. You had both a licensing fee as well as royalties, so it wasn't accessible. And one of the things that was really good that came out of the Fortnite popularity is suddenly Epic Games was a multi-billion-dollar company, and they really did put back. And with them putting back, Unreal Engine 4 suddenly became quite a staple across many development studios. And a similar shift happened with Unity Engine around the same time, where you now have multiple game studios utilizing the same game engine. And why it's interesting is prior to 2015, every game you'd have to approach differently because it was built on a different engine.
Yeah.
But now with most games being written in Unreal or Unity, I think that's like 80% of the gaming market between the two of them. You can now attack the game engine itself rather than just the game.
Nice.
So,
And most of those games also use the easy anti-cheat thingy, the
yep,
EAC.
which I believe Epic Games recently bought out because they're
I
offering
don't
it
know.
for
I
free
just know
with,
they use it. I don't know if we actually have a way around it, but probably you do, right?
yeah, it is a complication, but it is not impossible to overcome. You do require a lot of very interesting driver work and stuff, but it is very easy to overcome. So, jumping into Cube Madness 1, opening the folder, and the first thing that jumps out at me is the naming. So, coming back to most games being written in Unity or Unreal Engine, there's a very specific naming scheme and folder structure that both these engines use. Unity games will always have the game name underscore data, which stores all game information basically. Unreal Engine is a little bit more of a complex folder structure, but it's also equally identifiable. And the reason why that's interesting is, well, I'll get into it in Cube Breaker specifically. But for Cube Madness, it was just a case of let's fire up the game then and actually then play it. So, well, how does the game play? What is the objective? Trying to then understand that. So, standard control scheme of WSAD or arrow keys and jump for space, space for jump. So just jumping around the game world, you can see every cube that's collected increases the counter, and there's only a certain number of cubes that are actually collectible. So this then leads me to go, okay, so we need to modify the value of cubes so we can attain the 20 out of 20 when we can only actually collect 6.
And just as a side step, did you write this game as well?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So Cheat Engine is the de facto tool for game hacking. It encompasses a memory. It was OBS having a panic attack with the USC prompt. It encompasses everything from debugging to code injection to its own scripting languages. It really is an all-in-one tool. So firing up cheat engine, reopening the game to reset the counter. And you then have to open the game itself to now modify the process that opens a handle into the game. And find it in the list and open. So cheat engine also functions around memory scanning. Most of the functionality is around memory scan. And the way that cheat engine specifically works is when you search for a value, be it a known value or an unknown value. You can see I've collected one cube, so I'm going to search for 1. It's going to snapshot every single memory address that's in running memory for Cube Madness that currently contains the 4-byte value of 1, being 4 bytes being a whole integer. So you can then see a list of 466,000 memory addresses that currently hold the value of 1. And you can see there's a bunch of BLL names here, being X input, and if I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see some NTDLLs. That's open handles to the game process that share memory mapped regions. So in some games, although it's rare, certain functionality actually happens outside of the game itself, which is why Cheat Engine will scan everything that the game's currently running, basically. So then go back to the game, and a relatively new feature that was added in 7.2 is it will highlight addresses that are currently changing in red in your address list, which is really nice if you just want to see things that are changing that shouldn't be. So for here, for instance, I'm now going to filter down my value list just by searching for 1 again. I still only have 1 cube in game, but being every address holding 1 in memory, some things have changed and they're not what I'm looking for. So now filtering via a next scan for the same value eliminates a lot of those addresses, and you can see we're already down to 388,000. So I'm just
still quite a lot, right?
Yeah, it's quite a lot. Ideally, you want to be able to filter down to around 100 addresses, which is manageable. Anything more it's just too much, because games will crash often during game hacking. And if you try and have to filter down 100 addresses and your game crashes and you're at 50, you kind of start from the beginning again. So you can see I've now collected 2. Go back into Cheat Engine. You can see there's values shifting, so just filter again, and you can see I'm immediately down to 192 addresses. So same process, collect 3, search 3, there's 4, search 4, and we're down to 4 addresses. So there is a very valid reason why there are multiple addresses in the list. And I'm just going to Control A and add them all to the table, where I can now edit the addresses. So I'm just going to go one by one for demonstration's sake. So I'm going to set this one to 10. And hey, we found the right address on the first try, which then changed our value to now 10 out of 20. But the reason why there are multiple, I'm just shifting things around so you can actually see. The reason why there are multiple addresses is there is also a display value. So the display value has its own address in memory, which reads from the actual variable in the game. So you can see if I now try and change the display variables, nothing's going to change because they're being set by something else, but they still exist in memory as valid addresses. So you can then see, yep, that's 11, change 11 to 20, and proc the flag.
Yeah, nice. But these are very interesting points, because there's in order to have a game, you have your internal state, and then you have the representation as how it should be on the screen, and the values will be duplicated or aliased in some way.
Take Grand Theft Auto, for instance. I mean, some of those addresses are replicated up to 1,000 times.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there? It's just process of elimination, I guess, right? Then,
Yeah,
if you,
it's absolutely a very long process of elimination. There is no quick way to achieve to find the value that you're looking for just off the bat. That is one thing a lot of people misunderstand with game hacking is sometimes it can be easy, but majority of time you're going to be spending weeks on a project.
yeah. And once you found this address, would it always be at the same location, or every time you play the game? How does the memory management change?
So there is a thing called a pointer. So like in good old C++, when you define a pointer, there is a way to find a value in memory which is directly related to the variable declaration that will automatically change to the valid address. But that address we found being 1DA, whatever it was,
Mhm.
will not be the same on the next game launch because
Yeah.
of a whole host of factors, not at least memory randomization for security.
Indeed, yeah, the whole bunch of mitigations that we've had the last couple of years. Yeah, so how do you deal with that? Is there a way to, would you be able to automate it? This,
So, like I mentioned, you can find a pointer using Cheat Engine, which is pretty much the same process where instead of you generate a pointer map
Mhm.
and then you close the game and you start again. And from your existing pointer map, you're now searching against that
Yeah,
instead
yeah,
of the
yeah,
game's current state to try and find those that match. And often you will find an address that will persist across game starts just because of
yeah.
how when a game's initialized, it's going to initialize this variable in memory and it's always initialized in the same point before it gets moved.
Yeah, yeah. Nice, nice. We have somebody in our group that likes to do like one, I would say one click, but it's never a click. It's like a one run exploitation. So he creates an entire chain of events that will exploit something. I wonder if he's able to do it for these things. But for the machines that we do at the end of the meetup, we generally get like this combination of commands that will do a one run exploit, which is really cool. In the meantime, Salp has tried lightning fast, and he says you don't need a VPN for the container. The container
Okay,
spins up in the public space.
cool.
Right. There's another question by CTFL. He asks, could we also not use Unity or Unreal engine editors to edit the game?
No. So obviously, it wouldn't be a particularly good business model if you produced a game and then could just reopen it in the editor. There are tools that will allow you to extract assets from the game files. In fact, for Cube Madness 1, there are several different ways to solve the challenge. One of them being extracting the flag image from the game assets.
Ah, yeah, nice.
So you guys
Yeah,
can also take a crack at that. There are a couple of tools online for working with Unity assets.
nice. I hear that we will have a contest of who solves the alternative way fastest. That will be quite interesting.
But no,
So,
you can't just reopen a game in the editor and change it.
yeah, well, maybe you can do it with the data files. So you used to be able to change games as well based on their save files. You probably still can.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would,
you definitely can. Wait for
yeah.
Cube Breaker.
Nice. I would maybe it's a nice segue. So for the next one, we decided to give people some time to attempt it. They've now learned about Cheat Engine. Do you have any tips that they should
Be
try?
careful when installing Cheetah Engine. It is bundled with installer adware, so just make sure you're aware of what checkboxes you have
Here,
selected.
you want the VPN? No. uh, uh, and Disco Quiche says my laptop really doesn't like Cheat Engine. Okay, that's quite funny. And always install in VMs. Yes, indeed. Yeah, those things are horrible. We've had people on location and have uh, installed something, and they get like this free antivirus program which tells them, "Oh, there's really something going on your computer," and it turns out that there's Word documents on it. Risks. So when installing, read what you're installing. Indeed. So we'll take, I guess, 15 minutes. Shall we do 15 minutes? What do you think? 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Kubernetes
it's
is,
that easy. Number
yeah.
2. All right. Yeah. So we'll do 10 minutes. It's I'll say it's 20 past 7. So 7:30 we'll get back onto the YouTube channel. In the meantime, I have a new feature in my software, which is actually background noises. I wonder if we can hear it, Brad. You get to choose one. Let's see.
You can hear it.
You can hear it?
Music.
Yeah, let's see. And then there's this one.
It's very techno.
Yeah, it's called dance pop. I think I think I already know which one you will choose. This one is called daydreaming, which is also very chill. But I think this one will be my favorite. Feeding the ducks. Something that's called feeding the ducks should be a good one.
It doesn't sound like feeding the ducks.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of ducks those are. There's a rock version as well. Any preference?
I'm easy on music. I listen to anything as long as it's on squeaky electric guitar.
Yeah, you want the electric guitar, the rock one?
No, when you get that like really, really high pitched screeching, like eardrum bleeding noise.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we'll leave it at daydreaming. Nice, quick. If there's a quick link to a Windows VM, 10 minutes to go. Quicker Windows. Windows.
Yeah, unfortunately, so much of gaming is still centric. We tried to make the challenges cross-platform, but there were issues within distribution, and you then have multiple versions of the same challenge. It just got really complicated.
Yeah, I know that our wonderful people at Windows, at Microsoft, they have a set of virtual machines that you can put it in the chat on the Discord. I'll put it in the chat here as well. One of my Dutch guys run their VDI in production. Very secure.
I don't mind giving a bit more time if people want to spin up VMs and stuff.
Yeah, we'll give them 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know how your internet infrastructure is, but most people here have broadband.
We have fiber.
You have fiber. Yeah, we have fiber, but no electricity.
We have fiber, but no electricity. I've actually got a 5 gigabit link.
5 here? Are you serious?
I've got a.
Well, I have power.
You won. You won.
That's quite interesting. 1 gigabit is quite normal here. Yeah, Chris also says 5. So, but do you actually achieve those speeds as well?
It's a full 10 gig trunk. I just don't pay for 10 gigs. It's too expensive. So I pay for half of 10 gigs.
Wow. Yeah, there's some people working on the challenge, so that's amazing. 5 gigabytes. Wow.
Yeah.
There is somebody called Soul Stealer on the chat that says Rule Warp. Hey Knappert. Somebody knows Rule Warp, or also known as Disco Quiche on the Discord. But this person also finds him very handsome, which is quite disturbing. Because I know Rule. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Acid Ripper. Goos has used Acid Ripper and he extracted the PNG with it. Nice. Yeah. Max says 5 gigs of fiber, but electricity is a no-no. That's not possible.
Yeah, no, it's great, isn't it?
2 different companies, right?
Yeah. The fiber network's got like a 10-hour battery backup on all their points of presence.
Yeah, but 10 hours. How long is the regular blackouts?
It depends on what stage you're at. So we're at stage 4, which is basically 2 hours of outages every 6 hours, but it's like stage 5 and 6, you're looking at 6 to 8 hours every like 4 hours.
Wow. Well, at least they can fill up the batteries. That's good. Ida asks, are you in Cape Town or Johannesburg? You cannot imagine having 5 gigabytes in the middle of nowhere.
It's not a standard service. I've got a literal cable to a series of racks I've got at a data center.
Nice. That is quite amazing. Oh, we have a very big interest in South African culture, internet culture. What do you pay for your 5 gigabytes?
Less than you'll pay for your 1 gig.
Yeah, I would imagine. But I'm quite interested.
I actually paid nothing for it. It was a company install. Before I joined Hack the Box, I was a freelance export developer, and I worked a lot with networking infrastructure stuff.
Nice.
And the company that I was working with paid for the install.
Nice. And so you don't have a subscription on it, you just have the install and you get
pretty much
signal. Wow. You've done a better job than I have.
But I mean, in general, our internet is actually really cost effective. A gig, 1 gig up is something that you can just get on a fiber network. And it's not that expensive. It's like $1,500 a month, which is in your speak.
It sounds like my electricity bill.
€8 a month.
80?
Euros a month.
Yeah, I don't. I pay like 40 for my 30 something for my gigabyte. 1 gig. Yeah. Nice.
Okay.
That is amazing. There's some questions coming in as well. Have you by chance listened to Darknet Diaries and heard the episode by Manfred? Yeah. Can you enlighten the rest of us?
He has had some very interesting exploits over the years.
Phelan, he says he adjusted in games like Ultima Online, Dark Age, Elder Scrolls, Guild Wars, and a lot more.
Well, my game of choice was World of Warcraft, and I am responsible for many of the issues Blizzard has had over the years and continues to have.
What? Can you explain? A little bit, so that you don't get into trouble.
There was a interesting packet that was sent when processing a auction house purchase, where it would, for some reason, request your gold count on your client instead of on your server profile, and there were some shenanigans related to that. This was a
Nice.
while ago. This was like Wrath of the Lich King era, so like 2010, 2011.
Yeah. Wow. And did you get banned for it, or?
I have many banned Blizzard accounts, yes. They started being a lot more proactive in 2013. They added a proper anti-cheat dubbed Warden to
Yeah.
all of their games, Diablo, World of Warcraft, StarCraft. And since then, they've been a lot more proactive with banning accounts, but they don't actually hardware ID ban you. So you just buy another license and you're back up and running.
Yeah. It's an expensive hobby, but yeah. Oh, wow. Well, have you played Diablo Immortal?
No.
No.
I strongly detest mobile games.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what that I was thinking you would say as well. One of my favorite video clips on the internet is when when Blizzard announced that it would be a mobile game, and you see the entire crowd go like, "What the frick are you saying?" Butter asks, "How can you change registers in Cheat Engine?"
You can. There's a full debugging tool, but it's not something I really got into tonight. I can always come back and do something more advanced at a later date.
Yes, yes.
Code injection and writing bots and stuff like that.
Yeah, and if at all possible, you should make the trip to the Netherlands. We can do it in person.
At the moment, travel's just very complicated for me as a South African.
Yeah, is that so?
Yeah. There are issues getting visas related to political nonsense, and then there's the whole COVID thing. I still got to quarantine if I go to the EU, and it's just complicated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That will just do it digitally. That will be fun as well. Barry says, I'm game. I'm always game for pwning and reversing. Barry also has the tendency to make it very complicated. So I wonder if when he sees the solution to the challenge, he'll go like, "Oh yeah, okay."
Well, if you once complicated, a project I'm working on at the moment is an AI for World of Warcraft.
Nice.
They can actually compete like mythic raiding and doing high keystones and stuff competitively.
No way. Like AlphaGo for World of Warcraft. Wow.
I've already got it doing the rotation, being the buttons you press to do spells and there's certain timings and stuff. And it can already play all the classes flawlessly.
Whoa.
I'm just teaching it movements and how to interact with a team of players and stuff.
Nice. There is a comment. I used to be involved in the theory crafting when I raided in Wottelk.
Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah.
Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah. So really interesting. All right. I think you will get along very nicely with Sol. Oh, that's quite. You learn something new about people every time you do a meetup. So it's 9:30. It's 7:30. So they've had some time. I know there's one person close did some asset ripping. So yeah, shall we take a look at the challenge?
So asset ripping is pretty common among games. I don't know if you've been following the Overwatch 2 Twitter drama with asset ripping.
No. What's going on there?
There's a certain segment of graphic animators that have taken the Overwatch assets and done non-game related things with them.
Non-game related things. Like what kind of things?
R18 things.
Oh,
Hmm.
all right. They were maturely creative.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, if you are ripping stuff from World of Warcraft, for instance, there's this whole animation YouTube phenomenon called machinima, where people now tell stories and stuff using, and it's really cool.
Yeah, we've had those back in the day from the Halo time, right? You had
Mm.
Red and Blue, I believe. Yeah, I think Red and Blue. It was an entire YouTube series as well from what was Halo 3, I guess. No, Halo.
Might have been one of them. I was
Yeah.
only to Halo.
No,
Just
oh,
that
you missed out.
game.
No,
Mm.
I like to shoot things. I like to get really aggressive with things that don't fight back, um, so that I can have a good feeling about my life, I guess. No, I don't know. I like shooters a lot and stuff like that. So, but you're more of a role-playing RPG player, I guess.
Strategy.
Strategy,
Yeah.
nice,
Total War's where I live.
nice. There's somebody who asks. Let's see. Forced asks, "Are you active on any socials?"
No,
Nope. Nope.
I avoid social media.
Nice, nice.
The only
Sorry.
socials I use are Discord servers I join.
Nice. Well, you're also in our Discord server, so we're happy to have you. Nice. So um, let's see. Ali says, is anybody trying CubeMat this game? Or up and down keys aren't working. Ali, try W, A, S, and D. See if that does the thing for you.
So up and down doesn't do anything. It's left and right and space is the jump.
Left, right, space.
Or A and D in space, either or.
There we go. FTL says, nice, another social media hater. Very
Yeah,
good.
I never got social media.
No, I stopped. I do it for the meetup, and funnily enough, most really interesting things happen on LinkedIn, which is also like a
Yeah.
degenerate social media platform nowadays. But it works. It connects to a lot of people. So, nice. So yeah, let's take a look at number 2 and give it a go.
Fire up the video and start streaming again.
I wonder are you running your laptop on battery now?
Yeah.
How long do you have on? Oh, I have 10.
A lot. I've probably got like 4
Very good.
hours.
You have a good battery. I'll maximize the screen again so it is best legible.
So Cube Madness 2 was a direct follow-up on 1. So you can see just spawning into the game world, there were a couple of more cubes flying around than there were before. So same thing, attach the process and start searching. So we have 1, find 1, go for 2, find 2, and just filter down the list a bit. And that was a really lucky one, down to 200, down to 7, down to 4. Oh, something that I didn't mention is certain values will search better than other values. So 1 is a bad search value just for how many things 1 could represent. It could represent an integer, or it could also represent true or false.
Sure.
0 would capture all uninitialized memory in the game, so you'll be getting hundreds of millions of results. So the numbers you're searching for do actually make a big impact on how quickly you'll be able to find what you're looking for. So I've now got 4 addresses, just shifting things around, throw them into the list and start modifying them, see if anything changes. the way I usually do it is if I've got 4 addresses, I'll go 10, 20, 30, 40. Then I'll go
Yeah.
into the game and change the value. And if it changes to like 27, I then know it was the second address in the list. Or if it changes to like 42, it was in the 4th address in the list. Just a quick, easy way to identify them if they're all changing to the same value.
Nice.
You can see here trying to change the addresses, but none of them actually changed the cubes. We're still only at 5 and we've modified all the addresses. So one of the functionality that Cheat Engine also happens is searching for an unknown value. So you know you're looking for something, but you've got no idea what you're looking for. You know it's a number, you know it doesn't have a decimal, but what the actual value is, you've got no idea. So you can perform what's known as an unknown initial value search, which will capture every single memory address in the game. And depending on the complexity of the game, it can take some time.
Okay.
I've even crashed Cheat Engine trying to search games like The Witcher. So you can see I've already got 72 million addresses, and that will be every addressable memory chunk that's currently in the game. So now what I need to do is I need to change the value. So I just jump there. Something would have changed in the game, but the number of cubes I have, which I'm looking for, remains unchanged. So I can then follow up with an unchanged value search. So what I'm looking for hasn't changed, other stuff has changed, so let's filter down the address. And
So you basically have a snapshot of everything that was in memory, and then you move the game around a little bit, or you moved around, something changed, and then you look for the values that remained unchanged. So you make a diff of the first snapshot, basically.
Exactly. And now we're going to then collect a value. I'm going to not change the value, so I've changed it to an increased value because we're going from 5 to 6 addresses. So we're going the value of 5 to 6, and we're down to 180,000 results. That was a bit quick. So increased value, and down from 70 million to 180,000.
Still quite a lot.
Way too many.
Yeah.
So then it's increased again. So change into another increased value search. It's increased. So increased value search, we're down to 4,000. Increased value, we're down to 500. And I can see just based on the list, you can see there are a couple of values changing. So it changed to an unchanged value, just jump around, change the game world without changing the value of the cubes, down to 88. Let's see if we can get it down any more, 100. I mean, 10 cubes, 40 searches, 40 results, done 11, we got 12. And we now haven't reduced any. So we've had 38 for the past 3 searches, which likely means we're not going to be able to filter that down anymore. 38 is still quite a sizable number of addresses, but it's not the end of the world. So there's a quick half and half technique that I use. So Control A, add everything to the list. Then I literally select half of the entries in the table. And Cheat Engine has a nice function, so shift-click to what I'm about to click on to select them all. And if you double-click with multiple values selected, it will edit all of the values selected to what you just changed to. So you'll see here, I've got a whole bunch of values selected. And a double-click on the last one. I'm going to change it, just add a couple of zeros to it because I know I don't know what the number is, but I do know if the number's bigger, the value will probably get bigger. Safe assumption.
Yeah.
So you can then see it then set everything that I'd selected to 532,000, whatever value it was, 532,000, I think it was. But it didn't actually change in game, so I still only have 12 cubes. So what I'm looking for is not in that list, so just delete it and go again.
So you basically do a binary search for the value.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, nice.
I do the other half of the table to change it because what I'm looking for might not be in that list. So if I then go half again and then half again and half again, I'm just wasting time. So just now select all the remaining values and do the same thing again. Let's select it. Let's throw a 0 on the end of it. And there we go.
Nice.
Change to 91. So now let's try to actually find the correct address. So then it's a case of going half and half because it is likely that you'll see a pattern in the addresses. So you can see a whole cluster of addresses are all 351,000. Another cluster of 122,000. One's 145, and there's a cluster of 122,491.
Yeah.
So just select one cluster and change the cluster and see if the value changes. Remove a couple of numbers, see if it gets smaller. Nope, not what I'm looking for. Same thing, remove it. Ooh, changed, okay. So what I'm looking for is now in that cluster. So I can delete the rest, or here I just change it to make sure in any event. I just double checked.
My cat's coming in. Yeah. He's missing the dog.
So then did half and half again, selected half of the addresses, changed it. So it's now one of those 4. So selected 2, changed it, nothing changed, nothing changed. That changed. So I now have the value I'm looking for.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
because you're messing with memory, unintended things will happen. And this is actually a really good demonstration of this, because throwing it in a calculator to work out the value shift, being what the difference between the actual value and the representation of the value is. Did I pause or play here? So I just divide 12,249 by 9. I got a multiplier of 1361, which interestingly enough is not actually the multiplier in the game.
Oh.
So at some point with messing with the values that I did change, the multiplier itself changed.
Oh, yeah, and of course it's also in memory. Yeah? So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you can see I then just times it by 20, and there's my 20 and the flag.
Yeah. Yeah, I also noticed when you put it all the way to 91, it already showed the flag.
Yeah.
So there's no exact
it
need.
solved the challenge, but it just wasn't good enough. I wanted to find the address. I wanted to know what it was multiplied by. I wanted it nice 20 out of 20, not 91 out of 20.
Yeah, yeah. We're not OCD, but we just like to have it very perfectly on the way we have it.
Yeah.
But this is a very nice evolution from the last one, where you just had a value that you changed. And let me put us in screen again, and we can all say hi to the cat. Hi, cat. And then, but going from a very simple solution, using the same tool to, hey, there's some more enumeration needed to find the value, and then actually finding a method to basically a binary search to limit those numbers. That's quite a nice step. And do you also get feedback from your challenges from
Not
people
really.
that play? No, we will have some feedback in the channel, I think.
Yeah. For whatever reason, the category hasn't been particularly popular.
No, that's quite interesting, because we've had quite a discussion in our channel about it, but maybe that's more due to like a person finding it very interesting and sharing it. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I thought this was a very very nice step. Um, how long is the saga of the Cube Master? Will that
So there were 3 cube challenges. So there was Cube Madness 1, Cube Madness 2, and Cube Breaker. I'll do Cube Breaker last because that was more of an evolution to intermediate level stuff.
nice?
So
So
the
we'll
lightning
complete
fast
the
next.
saga. Nice. So are you gonna be nice? Hmm? Yeah. The cat is my the rest of the family is away. Regular viewers will know that right after the meetup, I have to put my kid to bed and stuff like that. They're all on the holiday because it's holiday season here. So even the dog is away, and the cat is missing the dog. So for all the things that you can see in the world, a homesick cat. So,
We used
so
to have
that,
loads of animals. I grew up with like 5 dogs and 2 cats, and we got a really big garden, so it's flooded with birds, and there's fish in the
nice.
pond. And
Nice. Yeah, we have a cat and a dog, and uh, I guess most people have cats on the Discord. So he will be annoying at one point. And he starts like, how can I get stuff? Let's see. There is some questions. Um, Yeah, all right. Phelan, he was working on the game. He said like, oh, you already answered it, I think. But do you need to start with one, or can you get more cubes values and start searching then?
I don't know if you asked that before or after I spoke on that. Unfortunately, because I'm on my Mac, I only have one screen, so I can't keep
Yeah,
my eye.
I don't know either, and it's somewhat delayed. So by the time we are at a topic, they will be like 20 or 30 seconds behind.
Mm.
Due to the streaming infrastructure. But I guess it's more of a question when you start a challenge like this, and you figure out what the goal is, figuring out that you have to get 20 or more. Would you, as part of your process, just restart the game and start it from scratch, researching it then, or would you just jump in, connect cheat engine, and then from there just figure it out?
Press buttons.
Press
That's literally what
buttons.
game hacking is.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
research to death, but the quickest way to get what you want is hook a cheat engine in and get going.
Yeah. Nice. Let's see. Let's see if there's any questions at the moment. No. Shall we explain the third challenge, which will be a little bit more difficult as we progress?
So the third challenge was lightning fast,
Yeah.
which was a first iteration on a client and a server. So let me just find the video again.
Shall we not give them some time to solve it
Oh,
themselves?
I'm jumping the gun. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, but this is the one where you actually need to start a Docker on Hack the Box. You don't need a VPN; you just have the Docker, and there's a client and a server thing, which is, I would think that's already a hint where to look for interesting things, right? Or
Yes, it is.
yeah, beautiful. As it is a little bit more involved, shall we give them 20 minutes to work on it? We can take a little.
Yeah, I can answer some questions that people have on Discord.
Yeah, we'll also have a little break so everybody can have some drinks and stuff. If you jump into Discord, I'll jump into Discord. I'll put some music on here. See, it's still playing actually. There we go. That's quite nice. It's called Daydream. All right. Disco Quiche has installed a VM, and he's getting. This will take a few minutes to install. CTFL asks, is the client part also Windows based?
Yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately, all of the challenges are Windows based.
yeah, yeah. That's just how the um, gaming market is. Well, I have a Steam Deck now, which is the Valve's handheld, which uses Proton as an emulation layer. Maybe there will be some people interesting enough to actually see if it can work on Proton. It's quite
Um,
interesting.
there is an unpublished port of the cheat engine for Linux.
Nice.
Darkbyte on his Patreon, there is a version for Mac. The tooling is starting to evolve to other platforms because of how Steam's been pushing Proton.
Nice. Nice. Well, we can only hope. We can only hope. Let's see. CTFL says importing virtual disk image, 1 hour and 2 minutes remaining. I don't think his hard drive is really fast. uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Salp says, well, you can just use GDB and PIDA and have the same thing. Of course, true. It's a massive front end for just memory inspection. But let's grab a break. I'll hop into the meetup voice. It is, I would say, somewhat 10 to 8. So somewhere near 8:15, we'll continue our venture into these games.
Cool.
So to recap, Lightning Fast is the game we'll discuss next. We have until 8:15 ish, 8:10. And in the meantime, we'll head out into Meetup Voice. So see you in a bit. And we're back. Let's kill the music. There we go. Yeah. I must say the music is quite fun. So we have at least one person who solved it by looking at the protocol instead of actually doing anything with the game. So that's quite interesting. So, Brandon, what do you think? Do you think more people should have found it, or do you think it's more difficult?
It's a bit of an interesting one because it's the first real crossover to a lot of infosec techniques.
Hmm.
In fact, one of the methods that I've used to solve it is using Burp Suite.
Because there is a HTTP like protocol underneath it, of course, because else the burp would.
The majority of games will still use a TCP protocol like HTTP. WebSockets are also popular in real-time environments where
Mhm.
you need a flow of data real-time from player to player. Escape from Tarkov, for instance, where you have a series of players competing in a map simultaneously, where you're managing things like looting from inventories and stuff, and the data has to happen real time. And Unity is on a big push at the moment to port everything to their multiplayer platform, which is also developed in Unity Engine, but it's a UDP based system where you run the game, for instance, Rust. I don't know if anyone's ever played Rust, but the Rust server is literally the game that's just started with a different command line. It's the exact same
Okay,
game files. It's just started with a command line and it runs in server mode instead of client mode.
nice, nice. We actually have I actually play Factorio as well, which is not shooting up stuff, but actually building a factory, and the factory must grow.
I love
Um,
Factorio.
Yeah, it's you can lose so many hours in it. But it has the same thing. You can create your own server and just have the same binary and just run it, and then you have this beautiful thing. Yeah, I think I don't know anybody who does not like Factorio. There's some love for it in the chat as well. But yeah, yeah. So let's take a look at this beautiful game, lightning fast, and how we could solve it. There we go. We'll put it big screen, center screen, so that's legible.
So, first thing with firing up lightning fast is it asks for server information and options, which immediately makes me think of working with some sort of networking. So, for instance, because I've got this server image, I'm just running it in a local Docker, no different to what you'd be running in the Pack-the-Box platform when you spin up a Docker. I'm just doing it on my local host, so I've set it up to port 3050. So that's connected successfully, playing the game, just seeing what it's about. So character flying through, losing health as it hits these lightning bolt type things, and collecting coins for every second that the player is alive. 8 seconds and 7 seconds, dead. So go to the shop, I see there's 14 coins, click the button that I assume would be to buy the flag, and it tells me I need X number more points. So I now kind of have a general understanding of the game, being that I need to hack the coins.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big fan of Burp Suite. One of Burp's little underappreciated features is its ability to create a forwarding proxy. meaning that when it eventually starts up, I can go to proxy when I eventually find it, because I haven't used it for a while. Go options, and under proxy listeners, there's an option to add a new one. So I'm going to add it. I'm going to bind it to all interfaces so I can forward to the Docker network. Binding it to port 3000. And I'm going to redirect all requests to the Docker image. So that's localhost on port 3050. So, okay, it's added it. Go back to the game, and now I'm just changing my port settings. So I'm setting it to my burp proxy, which was on port 3000. So I'm setting it to port 3000 and save. And we can now see that burp is now forwarding all network communications to the running game server through burp itself. So playing the game, unfortunately, I see that it clipped off a bit while I was recording, but it's generating a list of endpoints that are used. And you can see here, there's an ACK, there's /endpoints, and then these two names that do something. I go to the shop, click the button, there's a buy flag endpoint. So I'm just expanding the one that's a post request, and I see it's got a, oopsies. I see it's got a JSON object containing a score that it's posting to an endpoint. Going to the endpoints and checking the response, I can see it's returning a getter and a setter. So the inference is one's post, one's get as in a method. So if we then throw the get method into the repeater, so right click, throw into repeater, and go to repeater, it will then give you the request. And if we send, there's a button that's clipped off of screen, unfortunately, that says send. But you can see it's in center got a response that is the current score being 21. So then go back to the targets and now add the post request to the repeater and just change it to any number. See if it will just straight up update, send the request. You can see that it has returned a response of the new value. Just checking, double checking. So we go play the game. Nothing's updated in the shop. So there we go. So the value is now updated in game. Not enough coins to buy the flag, so just set it to a bigger number and send it off to the post and go buy the flag. Play the game, update the number, and then go buy the flag.
Nice, nice. That is quite fun. That is quite fun. I was wondering if SOAP actually did it this way as well. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that's very cool. That's a combination of web application security wrapped into a game, which is quite nice.
It's why game hacking is such an interesting introduction to the field of InfoSec, because there's so much crossover.
Nice. Burp forwarding proxy is quite nice, as it shows something that during the meetups we have not discussed before. Generally, we just see burp as being a proxy in the sense of sending a request to a host through a proxy. And so this is a very new use in compared to the content. So nice.
It's surprisingly a very little used feature, but it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I wish I had it back in the day. That would have saved my life. I used to reverse engineer instant messaging protocols back in 2006 to 2009-ish. So AOL, Yahoo, MSN, and all those protocols were just text based. So you could just, man, it's beautiful, beautiful. Nice. There's some discussion on Factorio now, which is quite funny. There's some people trying to get cheat engine stuff working under Wine, which will be quite interesting.
I don't know if Cheat Engine will actually work on Wine. I'm pretty sure it won't because Wine doesn't cover the memory access APIs from Windows. So I think it'll just error out.
I wonder if that is not something that in the newer versions of Proton has been added, because they also added the EAC stuff.
They must have then.
Yeah, because that's the entire thing that how the Steam Deck can run AAA games.
Yes,
due to the.
yeah, so, they must have actually added proper compatibility, which is kind of cool. Must actually take that at some point.
Yeah, at one point you don't need Windows anymore, so that's very good.
Hopefully, a very soon point.
Yeah, that will be quite interesting. Let's see. At the time, it's almost 8:30. The last one will be a little bit more of a work.
It's a bit of a lengthy one.
Yeah, I remember you saying that the video was 12 minutes alone, so I think we should just go into it, and then anybody who wants to give it a try, they can work on it the rest of the evening. Generally, we close the meetup at around 9. So people.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So we'll do that. So the last challenge that you have for us, which is the conclusion of the Cube Madness series.
Well, this one was Cube Breaker.
Cube Breaker.
Yeah.
Nice.
So share the screen. Give it permissions again.
Yes. You need to do all those type of things. Right?
Cube Breaker. So this is coming back to when I was talking about attacking the game engine, not the game. So in the past 5 years as well, there have been some really, really cool toolkits that have popped up for Unity specifically. Just due to its nature of Unity being C# .NET based, being a lot more accessible to reverse engineer at a code level than Unreal Engine, which compiles to C native. Yeah. So there have been a lot of really interesting toolkits that have cropped up over the last few years. So one of the very first things to just take note of is the different folder structure of Cube Breaker. So compared to Cube Madness, there is a directory in Breaker called Mono Bleeding Edge. As well as in Madness, there's a game assembly library, and that doesn't exist in Breaker. So Unity offers at a core level the option to compile or transpile, I should say, the .NET JIT to native code using IL to C++,
okay.
which was a library that they've since kind of taken over development with.
Yeah.
And that literally takes the game from running in .NET to running fully natively.
Yeah, so they take the .NET code, that the .NET code compiles to bytecode, and then the intermediate language, and then from there they create C++, basically, and then make native stuff.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And not many games use IL to C++, meaning that they are very moddable. So if you look at in the data directory of Breaker compared to Madness, you see there is in the managed directory all of the libraries and stuff that the game uses. All Unity game logic is contained in a library called assembly-C#. You see it second from the list. That is what will contain all game logic for any Unity game. They tried to create their own scripting language called Unity Script, which never really took off, and that's what that first part's artifact is. It kind of still exists in the engine, but it's not used. And you can then just see all of the Unity libraries and stuff in the folder. Whereas this folder doesn't exist in the IL2 C++ game because it's all being compiled into that game assembly library in the root. So firing up Breaker, you can see it's the same game platform again, but there's now firing up Cheat Engine and UFC Panic when everything suddenly dies in OBS. And just go at it. So searching for one, see if we find anything, and then filter it down, go for two, and so on. 333, one address, change it, see if it changes to anything, change it 20. Nope, that wasn't the address, nothing actually changed. So unknown value, see if that finds anything. Increased search, and then filter down, unchanged, increased, unchanged, increased. See it increased, and increased again. Down to 60 results. Down to 51. See if we can get it any smaller. Down to 32. That's workable. Add it to the list. Same thing. Split the list in half. Change it. I'm just going through to see if there's any obvious values that pop out. Change it and game crash.
Oh.
So we have to start the whole process all over again. Start up the game, attach. Just clear everything out, new scan. Unknown. It's increased. Game crashing is something you will deal with very often, and there's nothing worse than when you've spent the better part of 30 minutes whittling down an address list, you finally found like 5 options and game crashes.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, right? It's not really intended to be worked like this. So
Yeah, it's definitely not. The worst is finding player coordinates in the game because they will be replicated thousands of times. So here we go, just changing it, see if anything changes. Nope. Do the other half, see if anything changes. Nope, nothing changed. So the value is actually protected in memory, meaning we can't actually search for it. The value is polymorphic. It's going up, it's going down. The program again knows what's going on with it, but we don't. So by changing those values, I then upset it again, so it crashed.
yeah.
So reverting to it being a non-transpiled game, there are 2 frameworks called, one's called Melon Loader, the other's called BepInEx. And what they basically allow you to do is sideload code in the form of a library directly into a Unity game.
Nice. Salp was guessing that it would be DLL hijacking time, but actually we're just doing code injections.
Correct. The good old version.dll.
Yeah.
So you'll see a Melon Loader when it eventually opens and Defender stops having a fissy fit. You'll see there's a folder Melon Loader and version.dll, which is the hijack exactly.
Yeah.
So I just drop them straight into the game folder. you do need to actually run the game to now populate libraries, because in newer versions of both Melon Loader and BepInEx, they've actually added functionality that can unhollow IL to C++ games, meaning you can then side load games because you can kind of get a workable SDK that points to the related offsets and stuff in the native game. So then we start it up and you can see immediately a console pops up, being the Melon Loader console, which just contains some game data and stuff, game information. And you can see it's now populated the game directory with its related folders. So we now have a mods folder, we have a plugins folder, we have a user data and a user libs folder. So what we can now do with Melon Loader is, coming back to how the game functioned, there were two walls. You just see, just jumping around the game, there are these walls that are separating us from more cubes. So how about we just remove the walls?
Sure, whoever needs walls. So that's
Exactly.
that's good. Only holding us back.
So the first thing that needs to happen is opening Rider. I'm a big fan of the JetBrains IDEs. I use them for everything.
Nice.
So I'm just creating a new class library. One of the important things to note is Unity does not actually run on the .NET framework. It runs on Mono. So if I create a .NET 6.0 library, it won't work. I need to create a .NET Standard library. A .NET Standard being .NET Core, .NET Framework, Mono, etc. compatible. It's
Yeah.
like it's a compatibility layer basically for .NET. So I'm just naming it Unbreaker, and just .NET Standard, and then just creating the project. So there are, being .NET, we can directly reference the game libraries. So the first thing we need to do is reference the Melon Loader library, which is in the Melon Loader directory, being melonloader.dll, which will then contain all of the information we need to create a mod. Then we need to add the game data, game data being the assembly C# binary. There you go. And then we need to add Unity, because every Unity version might have different libraries. Just directly referencing the bundled libraries in the managed directory, you'll see they're all prefixed by Unity Engine accessibility, AI, input, cloth, audio, core, input, etc. Just click and reference them all. We're now set up. So Melon Loader, my keyboard shifted. So Melon Loader runs off using Melon Loader, and we then have to define a assembly definition, which isn't something you really do often with C# stuff. It's simply just define assembly as melon info, being a type of the class we're going to be injecting. And then it has 3 arguments, being a name, a version, and an author.
Nice.
So one of the other weird quirks is it runs better in a namespace. So you can see I'm declaring my using Unity Engine in the Unbreaker namespace, not in the global namespace. It's just a weird .NET thing where, because we're actually technically using .NET as a base, not Mono, when it references object, it's going to reference .NET object, not Unity object. So by defining Unity Engine in the namespace, it gets around that issue. So I'm
Nice.
just checking the docs here, looking for methods in Melon Loader. The documentation is sparse, to put it lightly.
Like most things in our hacking world, right?
It's kind of unfortunate
Yeah.
because there's so many great tools and techniques that just aren't documented. So we're just looking here through all the callbacks. A core functionality of Unity is the update method. In game code, update runs every frame, and start only runs before the frame loop is started. It's two methods that every Unity game will make use of.
All right.
So I'm just going to pick on scene was initialized, and because I see it doesn't actually give me any overloaders, I'm going to define it as a melon mod, and then just go to generate code and go overriding members, which will then list, Visual Studio can also do this, so can VS Code. It will then just give you the actual member you're overriding, including arguments. So I want to overload on scene was initialized, which will be after a scene has fully populated with all of the game objects. And I'm basically just going to now loop through every game object that currently exists in the active hierarchy, meaning all of the, I'm a big fan of Copilot as well, as you can see. It's basically just going to loop through everything in the active hierarchy, being literally everything in the current scene. So you can see Unity Engine in the object class has a method called find objects of type, and the base instance of all Unity game objects is game object. So this is going to loop through everything that's currently active in the hierarchy, and then I'm just going to check if it is active in hierarchy, and if it is, I'm going to print out the object name. Logger instance is a melon loader method, which allows you to print to that melon loader console. So you can see it's literally just printing out every game object's name. So build it.
See, I told you the cat would get annoying. Things like there's not enough attention. So there's some questions. Is the game frame bound, or is there not a consistent game tick? Because you were talking about the update and the refresh.
What was the question?
Yeah, it's by Solp at 841. He said like it's frame bound. There's no consistent clock for game ticks.
Yeah, so the update method will run every frame, not every tick.
All right.
I don't know why they do it that way, but they just do. It was certainly an interesting choice of doing things. So now I'm just going to copy out the built library at the bottom there, Unbreaker. I don't need any of the libraries. I'm just copying it straight into the mods folder and dropping it in, and then I'm going to reload the game. You can see that my Unbreaker is loaded, and there's a list of all game objects names. So there's some bits, there's a cube counter, there's main camera, there's frame bottom, left, frame right, and top. So we have the name of the object we're looking for, being frame left and frame right. Now we actually need to disable it, which is also pretty simple in Unity. So there is a method in melon loader, which was on update, which will run every update in Unity. So Doing this was then defining two game objects to hold the frame left and frame right references. So the question mark is just, it's possible to be nullable. It's a weird .NET thing that they've added recently. Add a key code so we can actually toggle the hack basically. So just key code toggle key equals key code.t toggle. And then in the on update method, we're just going to check if the key has been pressed. So if toggle key's been pressed, if it hasn't, just return them from the method. Nothing needs to happen. So now we're going to actually toggle frame left. So we're going to set, there's a method in Unity called setActive, which will take a Boolean and set it to the Boolean if it's true or false. So I'm just going to set it to the opposite of what it currently is active in hierarchy. And same thing for frame right, set active to be the opposite of what it's actually active in hierarchy. Then we need to actually now find the object. So that's just on when the scene's loaded, just find. Game object.find is the method that Unity has to find a named object. And that was literally the hack. So build it, copy it, throw it into mods. Let me see, it's running. And it's now loaded. Go to the wall, hit T, and goodbye wall.
Nice, nice. Could you also have just created a mod that would give you 20 points?
Possibly. It's unlikely considering that the value is pretty hidden.
All right. Nice. This is very cool.
It's certainly a valid solution.
Yeah, nice. There's what we were afraid of with the text being legible. Some people were unable to read it very well. Maybe
drop the code into the meetup text.
Yeah, that would be very cool. So the code will be posted in the meetup text, and people can take a look at it. So that is quite awesome. I think that was.
Wait, I forgot. So with the development of this tooling, like that's the more manual way of doing things. But there's also this. So there is a tool for Unity games called Unity Explorer, which is built around either Melon Loader or BepInEx. I prefer Melon Loader because of how unstable BepInEx can be. It's just a personal preference thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same thing, just downloading the mod, throwing it into the game folder, running the game. Except this time you shall see when it loads, a really comprehensive debugging interface in-game.
Nice.
Which allows you to explore everything in the game internally. And one of the things that you can do is toggle active elements using just the checkbox. So this is a really, really powerful toolkit when you're working on developing cheats for Unity-specific games, because it also works for IL2C++ games. And you can just see in-game, I'm just editing the game as it in live.
Nice. That is awesome.
And it can do a lot more than that. It also gives you a console so you can run custom code and stuff. It's a really, really powerful toolkit.
Nice. There's the Kruisen asks, are the X and Y coordinates of the player also protected? One
Yes,
of the first things you learn with Cheat Engine is teleportation. Would that work to place yourself outside of the bounds?
You can try, but it will be a very unpleasant experience.
Unpleasant,
I
as in
actually
for
know
you
someone,
or the player.
the player, I actually know someone who solved it because I coded something in where if you are out of bounds and the frames are still in place, it'll reset your player position. So you'll snap straight back to the middle of the game.
Ah,
And
nice.
I know someone who glitched every single cube. It took him like 2 hours.
That will be quite
Their own, I
funny.
guess.
With all goals in the pop every frame. I like the idea. Nice, nice. Well, I think there are some people that will try some very nice solutions as well. So nice. Let's see if there's any. There's no chats there. Um, yeah, so I think this is the most technical one that we've seen, of course. Apparently, you're also a C++ coder, given the underscores on the variables.
I started C++ when I was like 9.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I saw the pen. I saw the style pen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Selp picked you out right away. Um, I wonder what he says about my coding. Hmm. Functional programming nerd. Anyway, so very cool. There's obviously more challenges to be done. Do you have any recommendations for people who want to try out the other challenges? Is there any hint, but not tips that you would give them on their new adventure?
More often than not, the solution is a lot simpler than what you think.
Yes, that's like a life mantra. That's
It it applies very much in InfoSec in general in pen testing, but in game hacking, you tend to go down these rabbit holes very quickly,
yeah.
and you suddenly find yourself writing a kernel driver to bypass an anti-cheat when you could just edit the packet.
Yeah, yeah, and if we know one thing currently, the kernel drivers for Windows are not very well protected, given the news of last week, which is quite funny. Cool, cool. Let's see if there's any questions that we have not answered. Yes, if there is, have a press and talk to the parallel universe. All right, I think Disco Quiche has had too many beers, but that's just me. Let's see. Uh, yeah. Very good, very good. We'll move the discussion back into Discord. That talks easier. I think there's a couple of people left, so there's room for video streaming if I count correctly. So very cool. Thank you very much for your peek into game hacking. I think it is a wonderful way to actually get started into hacking or thinking about hacking or thinking about how to work around systems. So that is quite awesome.
And you
Um,
saw the overlap yourself.
yeah, yeah, I still have to do a lot of points grabbing now. It's it's very nice. So there's oh, Valen says you are a legend, PandaSt0rm. So put that in your pocket. So that's very cool. We'll continue in the Discord, and then we'll see whenever we close. If you could put the code in there,
Yeah, I'll drop it on.
people
We
will
have
be very happy.
you can see.
Yeah. All right, they found some gifts with pandas, so we will have a very fun evening. So, for the viewers that are watching this, thank you for watching. There is a next meetup in November. We will actually have another Hack the Box person. Ian will be back. We will do some beers, and he will show us something very cool. We'll be quite interactive, and we'll have some great fun with that. And then in December we will have our next in-person meetup. So yay, two to go in this year. Um, our next one will be 0x20. So we're officially at our 32nd meetup. So Yeah, very good.
All
So,
right.
yeah, we do them every month. So we've been more than 2 years. Well,
Yeah.
this is our 31st, so the next one will be 32nd. So every time we do a walkthrough or something very cool, and it turns out to be quite good fun. So thank you, PandaSt0rm. Let's continue the discussion in the Meetup voice, and I'll bid everybody on the other side of this screen a good evening and enjoy your time. Bye. Oh, sorry. Do that again. Bye.